Well, hello everyone. Here to show you the autos art culling activity right here is that most of us, if we live in the state of Kansas, or if it's like in the state of Missouri, or if it's farther up, south or east or west or it is, such as Illinois, or if it's Arkansas, whichever state it is. But talking about right here of talking about with motor oil, and anybody maybe think about with most motor oil containers it is of basically talking about that there's probably many of different kinds out there, like Super Tech, and then of course Motorcraft, and then other types of oil products it is. And basically though that with these type of oil products, and a lot of times whenever I was out checking my car earlier, that I was thinking about that if anybody were to maybe ask, it's like that there's different kinds of motor oils out there, and then really about let's just say if you mix them up together, I'm like, is that going to cause any damage with the engine? It is, and I keep thinking though that maybe yes and no, that like with if you depend on if you add too much oil. Anybody maybe wonder about that maybe if you maybe add a little bit too much oil to your engine, then more likely that could maybe cause maybe some problems. And on the other hand too, that a lot of times it's usually marked with like what you call for gasoline purposes only. It is for gasoline engines, compared to like other other oil. If anybody is familiar with, like I say, maybe a Super Tech, which I don't know, that there may be some oils out there that more likely that are made by other in other shops. It is such as that there's a type of oil products like Motorcraft, or if it's Pennzoil, or if it's an MFA oil or something like that. And knowing about with most of the time though that after like they calculate a lot of times that after about 3,000 miles, and then you're due for an oil change. It is, and a lot of times that with anybody like I don't even change the oil, but I'm assuming that yep, I heard that you gotta get underneath the car and to drain the oil out, and then of course to put the fresh oil in. But with most motor oil, that if you were to go out shopping inside the automobile department, which I can tell anybody here back from whenever I was a kid, my department a lot of times was the electronics department, but a lot of times they also had an automobile department in there. And keep thinking about that yeah, what exactly was I thinking about whenever I was a kid, whenever I went to the automotive department? I think quite a bit of I remember whenever I was with my parents a couple of times, go in there maybe for a new battery, or maybe you go in there for maybe some windshield washing fluid, whichever it was. But talking about, say, with motor oil, that I've probably had my experience more than anything else buying motor oil containers. Or it could be, for so far as autos, anything to do with automobiles, if it's like a antifreeze, or if it's a transmission fluid or brake fluid. A lot of times I probably say that I could tell anybody here, like with transmission fluid, I buy one or two containers of transmission fluid, and or if it's brake fluid it is, and with any type of fluid it is. And knowing about really what is the difference if you get something that's made by what you call like maybe a different brand, or if it's the similar brand, or this type of I guess there are some motor oils out there that they say that work for higher mileages. For high mileage, I guess to say for high mileage vehicles it is that you're going to have it to where if you have like 143,450 miles on a car it is. And a lot of times that they say that they talk about I guess SAE 5W, if it's the 5W30 motor oil it is. A lot of times they may put that in your car, or if it's the 5W 5W40, something like that, or if it's the 6W10 or something like that. They may have like a motor oil called the 6W10 or something like that. And but basically that Since I've been driving, that a lot of times I usually see like what you call the 5W30, and of course it could be what you call for MFA oil or for any other type of oil it is, and knowing about that with these type of oils products though that really what is the difference between them, and with anybody maybe think about it, if they walk into the store that they just go ahead and pick out for whatever that's in their price range and go on, get out, you get out of the store. And a lot of times, though, that they may not realize that maybe the type of oil that they could be getting, more likely it's not certified, of course, by what it calls the makeup of the vehicle, such as if it's like a Dodge, or if it's a Toyota, or say Mercedes, or Mercedes Benz or anything like that. And a lot of times they wonder about that well, I would think that most oil would be the same, but in a lot of ways that people may think about that. In some ways, most oil is the same, but on the other hand, if you're talking about an older vehicle, or if it's going to be a heavier vehicle, such as maybe a Dodge Caravan or a minivan or any type of that, if I think about that, there are probably at least maybe 16,000 vehicles that are sold or being used for transportation almost every day, at least 16,000, or maybe 2.5 million, and so far as to supply the amount of oil for most vehicles can use it is, and so far as talk about it, say with the standard the standard type oil it is, and knowing about with the type of oil, if it's all a matter of fact about the type of oil that you need, or if it's the amount that you need. And a lot of times though that they say about say that this would altogether, a lot of times it you're talking about between maybe $4 and $5 for what you call they say, I think a lot of times it's either 3 quarts, I think it's 3 quarts, something like that, of worth of motor oil that comes in what you call for $3. Sometimes that they go up in price too. Like say talk about a couple bucks it is for one of those motor oil containers. And a lot of times though, and right here's the dipstick, and a lot of time, I think about to explain. I'm if this right here means full, or it's talk about low. If you're talking about, it's it's I'm not a mechanic. I would not be able to explain everything, but let's just say that you have these markings right here, so by between full and empty, and talk about right here. This is what you call a maybe 4th quart or something like that of the line, and with say with the motor oil, the kind of a fluid that you would need to add, of course, for your engine, that needs to be at about about right in here it is, or right in here. And anybody maybe think about if you fill it to what you call maybe a 3rd capsule or something like that, fill it up all the way up to this line, then we may think that that may be alright for the car. If you do add a little bit too much fluid to it, then that could maybe cause some problems to where that the oil pressure may start, it may start getting hotter, and then of course you may start boiling too. And with anybody maybe think about with antifreeze type products it is, or if it's windshield washing, brake fluid, whichever it is, transmission fluid, that if you do fill it up a little bit too much, would that cause any damage, of course, to the engine? And a lot of people may think about, that all depends. But the way I think about it, I'm I don't think it's really going to necessarily hurt anything compared to if you don't have anything at all inside, no fluid at all into the engine, that more likely that can cause some, damage right there, such as drying out, or just, that, the engine is not going to continue to work, is going to still continue having what you call problems it is. But other than that, I could probably tell anybody here that that with most motor oils, and I would maybe recommend go ahead and get a standard type motor oil, such as what you call maybe a Motorcraft oil, or if it's a type of brand, and anybody maybe think about that you'll usually mainly get one that's get a type of oil that's in your price range it is. And sometimes people say that sometimes that works too, that whatever that they have stocked in their shop it is a no, but they're going to change your oil it is. Or if you decide to buy a motor oil container yourself, and knowing about that really, if it's a matter of fact about the kind of oil that you need, or about how much you need to add, of course, to the engine. And a lot of times that anybody maybe think about that about almost every any kind of oil more likely works, but then you may have it to where that the kind of car that you drive that may require, like if it's going to be a GM, or if it's going to be a Toyota or a Micro, or if it's Nissan, or if it's a Mazda. It's like Ford Mazda or anything like that. That more likely that there may be a situation to where that you're going to need to have that a Motorcraft, or if it's the Ford type motor oil. But then of course that there may be a type of motor that's supported by GM for GM automotive automobiles it is. But so far as Taka say with Otto's art of talk about if we would actually do our studies, of course, about the fluid it is, about the type of motor oil fluid, and we could probably think about that there's something that seems so hard it is, but on your hand too that the way I think about, I'm like with this type of stuff right here, such as learning the basics about between computers and of course with automobiles, and maybe with maybe jetpacks or anything like that, of knowing about with this type of study, though, I can tell anybody here, with this type of study is kind of interesting in some way, because as to know about the things that, of course, that knowing about how something works, it is compared to if you were like talking about if you were just going to the store and buy something, and then you may not know what it's for. It is, and would anybody maybe think about that? Really hardly ever. The things that you may find at home, the things that you may find in the shop or in the storage or whatever, you may not know what they are either. And if anybody maybe say about, give you some examples. And any kid may wonder about, they go into the garage and they're wondering about, what is this little round thing? And that's a saw, and you don't need to mess with it. But other than that right here, talk about anybody maybe think about it. If that's happened before, I could probably say that I can tell anybody here that I've the tools that I used to have and my parents used to have, it is, and then talking about it's like if it's any type of saws or hammers like that. Now I don't have any type of saws, but I got hammers. But talking about the type of tools that more likely you could have around the house or wherever it is, and knowing about how the drill bits go together, and then of course how the level meters work and stuff. I'm like that you can maybe do some real good interesting creative things, and of course something that maybe you can try to do yourself. I'm talking about out of your time, it is, if you got the right tools that maybe you can go ahead and learn the process, of course, about knowing about how it works. But knowing about how it works, and basically maybe that talk about trying to teach somebody else, of course, about the basics too. But other than that, I talk right here so far as for arts of Otto's art is of talk about the study, of course, about the motor oil container.